This channel is concerned with the AmaBhulu, or white tribe of Africa, and its history and present challenges. The word AmaBhulu arose from the first black people that were met by white settler farmers in the mid-1700s. They were the AmaXhosa people on the eastern frontier of the Cape of Good Hope. The only whites the AmaXhosa knew were the Dutch-speaking farmers, and the Dutch word for farmers is boere. The AmaXhosa use the prefix ama to indicate a people, but they cannot really pronounce the R in the word boere, so they modified it to Bulu, hence the AmaBhulu. Many AmaBhulu look to the United States for understanding because the histories of the two countries are so uncannily similar. Both were started at least in part by the Dutch, both were taken from the Dutch by the British. The people of both grew up on a dangerous frontier. In fact, the AmaBhulu are the closest cousins of the Americans in DNA, in history, and in rural values. In 1797, the commander of the Royal Navy at the Cape of Good Hope, Admiral Pringle, referred to South Africa as the Second America, fearing that if it were allowed to prosper like America, it would in time steal India from Britain. The parallels extend further, with several parts of South Africa being remarkably similar to parts of the United States in vegetation and/or climate. Cape Town has much in common with California, Florida with Natal, and the region north of the Vaal River in South Africa with Texas. Both countries have a prairie region characterized by endless fields of grain, church steeples and grain silos, and by people who speak John Deere, Massey Ferguson, droughts and farm loans. One thing that pretty quickly becomes clear to a South African when meeting Americans is that they know dangerously little about South Africa. Some examples of basic drop-dead important facts that Americans do not know include the following. Firstly, when the Dutch settled the Cape of Good Hope in 1652, the nearest black people were 700 miles away. Secondly, it took 2 generations until 1702 before white met black in South Africa overland, 500 to 600 miles east of Cape Town. It took 5 generations until 1780 before the first major armed clash at roughly the same spot, the Great Fish River. Americans can talk quite animatedly about slavery, but while there were slaves imported to the early Cape of Good Hope, no indigenous black South African person was ever enslaved by any white man from anywhere. The Portuguese enslaved people in their colonies of Mozambique and Angola to the north, and many ended up in the United States. It's ironic indeed that it is the white people of South Africa, the AmaBhulu, who have slave ancestors and not the indigenous black people of South Africa. The only slavery the black people knew was at the hand of other black people. The owner of this channel, me, Harry Boyens, has an Angolan slave ancestor taken by the Portuguese in 1658, and the fact is borne out by my DNA tests. This is why I could have a great conversation with a black American couple in which we discussed our joint slave ancestry. The Bavenda people of Cyril Ramaphosa, the President of South Africa in 2020, arrived within the borders of South Africa a little after the Dutch landed at the Cape in 1652. So if white people are deemed foreign settlers by him, then he's also one. Since 1840, the AmaBhulu, the white South Africans, like their American counterparts, have had no right of return to Europe. They're in Africa to stay. They are today of Africa. Africa is in their blood, and they have fought imperial colonialism in a number of wars until their women and children were thrown in concentration camps. Today, they are threatened with extinction by a communist-run governing party, the ANC, that is fated by the formal Western media that appears to relish in the suffering and tribulations of the white people of South Africa. The history of the country is epic, and the present challenge is monumental. This channel seeks to expose the realities of South Africa to those who are willing to listen and learn and who prefer facts and evidence. And the first thing to learn is the epic history of this much tormented country. And the last place on earth from which to learn any fact about South Africa is the formal US media.